Hello everybody, Happy New Year. Thanks very much for tuning into my new video. In today's video I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff which I do to kind of get myself back in shape and get myself back into fitness after the Christmas and New Year break in early January. Now, I've been following this Instagram account for the past couple of months called Chris Mac Fitness. He does this thing where he goes on a long scenic run and just kind of talks to his camera. He makes it look really easy, so I thought that I would give it a go. And then there's me with my limited cardio and my asthma, having not gone on a long run for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm struggling a little bit. So apologies for my delayed speech and my heavy breathing, but as I've started, I'm going to give it a good go, make the most of this time whilst I'm out here on this run, and try and talk you through some of the stuff which this video is going to be about. So I'm a big believer in and a strong advocate for the importance of kind of taking a good 1 to 2 week break at some point during the year. Doesn't necessarily have to be at Christmas, that's just what fits in best with our society's calendar. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that if you do take a good break, your chance of injury the following year is dramatically reduced, and there's no denying the kind of physical freshness which you feel after a long break, but also the mental freshness as well. When we get close to the end of a year, and I've been training many weeks in a row, it is demanding up here. You know, you're not always feeling motivated. But I woke up this morning, having not trained for a couple of weeks, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this, let's attack this year. So although there are all these obvious benefits to taking this big long break over Christmas, it doesn't come without its drawbacks either. I'm obviously starting this year a little bit heavier, a little bit fluffier, and not quite as strong or flexible as I was a couple of weeks ago. I'll share my physique from this morning. I'm sitting at about 82 kilograms, which is about 3.5 to 4 kilos heavier than I was just before Christmas. So it's a sizable and a noticeable gain, but I'm not nearly as heavy and not nearly as out of shape as I was this time last year. So I consider that a success, first small victory of the year. And I'm quite pleased with how well I've maintained my physique and my composition over the last 2 weeks, despite doing very little. And I think it's a really good starting point for this year to build upon. So where I live in the UK, as of this morning actually, the whole country is back into another national lockdown because of coronavirus, which means that the gym I work at and train at is closed for the foreseeable future. We don't have an exact timeline on that, but in my head I'm thinking it's going to be at least kind of 6 to 10 weeks before I'm back training in the gym again, which is frustrating, but we adapt, we overcome. We try to think positively about what we can do rather than what we can't do. And to be honest, having thought about it a little bit, I don't think that being away from the gym will detriment me too much at this stage, because most of what I'm going to be doing for the next month and a half is just rebuilding that body composition, rebuilding that strength, rebuilding that flexibility, and almost all of that I can do from home anyway. So with that in mind, I've decided that the first 6 months of this year, I'm just going to be going all in on my strength, trying to build even further from where I left off in December. And then in the last 6 months of this year, hopefully when I've got back to regular gym access, that's when I'll be pushing for new skills on all 6 gymnastics apparatus.
So these are the stats from that run which I just went on. It's not a massively impressive distance, and it's an even less impressive time, especially compared to somebody who's actually into distance running. But for me, this was a run which I was actually pretty happy with. As I mentioned before, cardio is definitely not a strong suit of mine, being as I'm asthmatic and it's not been a main focus of my training in the past. So for me to be running this kind of distance would have really been almost unthinkable for me, even as little as like 6 or 7 months ago. And it's only down to the fact that I did quite a lot of running in the first lockdown that means I'm actually able to start this year on a pretty high distance run for me, even after a fair break. So at times such as these, I like to include a fair bit of cardio and running in the programme for the obvious primary benefit of kind of deducting any additional Christmas calories, but it also warms my body up really nicely for the stuff which I'm going to do afterwards. So as soon as I got home from my run, I went straight into a nice thorough head to toe maintenance stretch. So I wasn't particularly pushing hard during this. I wasn't holding anything for too long. There certainly wasn't any PNF stretching or anything like that. Just a fairly gentle working through all the key joints and all the key muscles in the body, and just kind of dusting off the cobwebs, having not done much stretching for a little while. Just making sure that everything feels healthy and injury free, and just priming those muscles for in the very near future when I start doing much more strenuous flexibility and strength training. And as soon as I'd finished my stretch, it was time for me to move on to the last bit of today's training session, which was my muscular endurance circuit. So the way that I chose to structure this particular circuit was that I chose 10 different exercises, and I tried to cover a wide variety of different exercises within those 10. So there's some bent arm stuff in there, there's some straight arm stuff in there, and there's lots of core stuff as well. And I tried to alternate between an upper body and a mid body exercise to give each body part a chance to recover whilst the other one was working. And I did each exercise for 15 to 20 repetitions. I tried to go from one exercise to the next with minimal rest, as little rest as possible, so that I was working up a little bit of a sweat and continuing that cardio at the same time. I went all the way through to the end of the 10th exercise, and then I had a good rest, and then I completed the entire circuit 3 times through, which was just a really nice way to kind of burn the muscles out, create some fatigue, and finish the session off strong. At the start of a program, such as right now, I like to do lots of kind of generic conditioning. So that's not to say that these exercises won't help with the goals that I have for this year, but there's nothing super specific in here. And I'm most definitely working through a kind of high rep range. So this is higher volume training. And the reason for that is that I'm just trying to build a really strong, sturdy, well-rounded kind of base layer of strength, which I can very easily and very safely build more specific skills from later on in the year. Hey guys, thank you very much for watching my workout this morning. I hope that it gave you a few good ideas, or that it gave you a bit of inspiration to get yourself going and get this year off to a good start. If you are somebody who, like me, finds themselves in a situation at the moment where you're not able to train in the way that you might like, whether it's because you're unwell, or because you're injured, or because gyms are closed, or whatever the case might be, just try your best to stay positive, really focus on the stuff which you can do, and just go all in on that, rather than worrying about the stuff which you can't do. Because I guarantee that as long as you are actually healthy and alive and breathing, there is something which you could be doing today which will help you in the future. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't done so already, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate that, and also that'll make sure that you don't miss any of the stuff which I've got coming up, because I've got lots of videos planned which will be dropping later on this year. Thanks again, and see you soon.